Hello, my name is Richard Kent. Today I want to talk about the human heart. We always take the human heart very much for granted. It's a tiny little organ. It only weighs 10 ounces and it sits roughly in the centre of your chest, and your heart beats roughly 78 times a minute. If you're Howard Conda, your heart rate is 38 times a minute because you're very fit and play lots of football. But most of us, it's around 70 times a minute. Mine actually is 53. But we all take it very much for granted. Now, how much do we need our heart? We need our heart absolutely, all the time. In fact, if my heart were to stop right now, I would simply fall off the chair I'm sitting off literally 3 seconds later, because my heart pumps out oxygen and blood, and my brain would be deprived of oxygen, and 3 seconds later I would simply fall to the floor. All of us would. There's nothing special about me. We all need our hearts. It pumps out masses and masses of blood all the time, and yet we take it completely for granted. As if we take exercise, obviously it beats a lot faster to provide even more oxygen and more sugar to the tissues for the Krebs cycle in all of our 100 trillion cells. But our hearts are actually miracles in themselves. Now, the evolutionists want us to believe that 3.8 billion years ago, the human body and all human life evolved in the primordial slime by chance. Well, let me tell you, that's completely impossible because the heart is so complicated. It's actually not one pump, but four separate chambers, 2 atria, 2 ventricles, and 4 very important valves. Now, these valves are really, really important. If they don't work absolutely completely, they're absolutely watertight, you will be very ill. You may have heard of mitral valve incompetence, which is a very common condition and gives people heart failure. If people have a problem with one of the heart valves, they are very, very ill indeed, and nowadays have to have a heart operation. Now, the 4 ventricles don't just contract and relax in a haphazard sort of way. Their contraction and relaxation is controlled by an electrical bundle called the bundle of His, H-I-S, so that all the ventricles and the atria all contract in a rhythmic fashion in a special sequence, so that blood is pumped from the vena cava, that's the returning blood from the deoxygenated blood from the body, through the lungs where it picks up oxygen, and then into the left atrium and the left ventricle where it's pumped to the rest of the body. And it's pumped at a high pressure, 120 systolic. Our blood pressure is normally 120/80. That's because we have an elastic system, so the blood is pumped out at 120 millimeters of mercury and then relaxes to 80 millimeters of mercury approximately, because the circulatory system is elastic. Now, all of this is supposed to have happened by chance in the primordial slime 3.8 billion years ago. Well, I'll tell you what you need for a human heart to function properly. First of all, you need 2 atria and 2 ventricles, all pumping in exactly the right order and controlled by the central nervous system, that is our brain, giving special impulses via various centers in the brain to tell the ventricles and the atria exactly when to contract and when to relax. Secondly, the heart itself needs its own oxygen supply. You've probably heard of coronary arteries. Well, the coronary arteries are the way that the heart receives its own oxygen. If we have a coronary artery disease, because of, say, coronary arteriosclerosis, we have angina or even heart attacks, and we die. How on earth do the evolutionists think that this happened by chance? This miraculous organ, which we absolutely depend on for every second of our life, because if it stops functioning, 3 seconds later, we're dead. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.